Hey, Rochelle.
Hey, Tasha.
So excited to have you back to talk
Thank
about real estate investing this time. I think, not I think on Tuesday we talked about the home ownership process, buying a home, looking for a real estate agent, all that good stuff. So what I want to do is before I even get started, I want to just put out a disclaimer. This live is for educational purposes only. It's just to provide you some insight to our personal stories. We both are licensed professionals, but this is in no way to take place of you working with a CPA or your own mortgage broker or real estate agent. So just wanted to get that out of the way. But I'm so glad to have Rochelle back. If you were not here on Tuesday, I want to let you know who she is. She is a real estate broker who currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia area. She is from Detroit. She is a Cass Tech alum, a Walsh College alum, and a University of Detroit Mercy alum. She has her master's in accounting from UOD, and we know each other from working together in a Fortune 100 company. She was an intern, and I just had to befriend her because she was so smart on her grind. Even when I just first met her, I'm like, okay, I got to be around her. She good vibes. So she is a wealth of knowledge, which is why I wanted to have her back on. So, did I miss anything? You want to add anything to how I introduced you, your bio or anything?
I know on what was that Tuesday? You asked me did I want to say where I was from. So as a real estate professional, I keep it professional, but as an investor, and I'm just a little girl from Detroit, Dexter and Davidson. So
Woo, woo, woo.
we can do this, guys. I just I'm here to encourage people just like me and Tasha, who is also from the Detroit area, to invest and be a part of the conversation.
And now I'm glad you shout out your street. That's because I think that's what it was when we was in the office, in corporate, that, and you get a look like, what's up, and I'm like, where you asked me, he's like, where you from? I'm like, where you from? So that's why we just clicked. All right, so
Or let's say professional with a hit of y'all know the song.
exactly right. You have any questions for us, please leave it in the comment sections as we're going along. This is all about investing in multifamilies. So I want to let you know a little bit about my company. If you don't know, Financial Garden is sponsoring Real Estate Week. This is day 4, last day. It's been a lot going on. So if you haven't been here all week with us, make sure you go and watch the replays on Facebook and YouTube. And Financial Garden is a financial education company that has recently been co-signed basically by Essence and Pine Saw as a semifinalist to win $100,000. So I need as many votes as possible. So share this live so people can see it who may not know about this contest, so they can go on financialgarden.com. It will be a big pop-up. Click that link and vote for Financial Garden to win $100,000 because I provide financial education just like I am doing right now about real estate. So had to do my plug real quick. All right. So I want to talk to you about how did you get involved with real estate? I know you're a real estate broker now, but how did you make the decision to invest in real estate?
I guess I've always had interest in investing in real estate, but that wasn't my primary goal. I had not actively doing it, anything like that. I have people in my family who own a lot of property around the city of Detroit and have, are the lord of their land, and they're renting it out to, and that's what he calls it. He say he's the lord of the land. Okay, so he's renting his land out, and he's providing homes for so many people. In addition to making money for himself. So I've always just been interested in investing. Like I said, I wasn't active about it. I graduated, like you said, Walsh College in 2015 with my accounting degree. And I was headed to, the traditional route. It's time to do Becker now so I can get my CPA like Tasha. And here I was getting ready to get started. And I scratched my head and I said, well, if I get licensed here in Michigan and I move to Georgia, Georgia was really a goal of mine by any means necessary. So, here we are, fast forward to March. Well, I started applying for jobs. I put Becker on hold. I put CPA on hold because I knew that I would have to do it, in the state of Georgia. So, but when we got fast forward, my husband got hired. Was able to transfer his job down to Georgia. At that time, I hadn't had an offer or anything like that. So when I came down, I wasn't working. I'm at the nail shop, and the lady brings up real estate. So I'm like, She's like, yeah, this, she recommended a school. I looked online, found out a class was starting like the next week. Within 3 weeks, I had my real estate license. I was a practice.
Wait, yeah. Getting your nails done?
I'll get my nails
3 weeks later, you were real estate.
I wasn't working. I've always had this bug to invest. I'm like, why not be my own real estate agent? So when he said it, I'm like, okay, I can do this. The classes, it all progressed really, really quickly. Once I got, involved, I was really excited. My husband, the brains behind the operations. I'll be completely honest, guys. I might be the numbers girl, the whole nine, but my husband, the brains behind the operation with us, with our investing activities. But we do it together, and we tag team together. We have each other. But nonetheless, once I got my real estate license, we started looking at property. And because we had, because my husband was a high W-2 income earner, we were able to purchase a home the traditional way. And not just, a $60,000 house or a regular home, but something, the traditional way for someone who earns, a healthy wage. So we were able to purchase a multiple family unit. And it was like so exciting just seeing the cash flow that comes from that. Got us really, really ramped up. And when I tell you, my husband wakes up looking at multiple families at all homes. My husband wakes up looking at real estate and goes to sleep looking at real estate. And we have the tools and the ability to just do those things for ourselves because we are a real estate. My husband is now a real estate agent as well. But we are agents and we can do it for ourselves. So when we see something hit the real estate market, we're able to, act fast, to go into the house, to make an offer, things of that nature. So that's why I got involved in real estate sales, and it just, kind of went into hand in hand with the investing that I do or plan to.
So I just like the fact that you already were quote unquote book educated, like you had 2 degrees, you had a BA and a master's in accounting at this point, but you weren't like, oh, I'm done with school, I should just, go a traditional route. You were like, okay, I'm still applying for stuff. And then you heard an idea and you just went for it. You decided to go get your real estate agent's license and just went in that way. And then what resources, though, I know you kind of went ahead and saying that you guys purchased the multifamily, but what kind of resources and stuff did you guys use before deciding to do that? Or did you already know we should buy a multifamily off rip, or how did that happen?
You're absolutely right. So no, I didn't know that I wanted to invest in multifamily. As I said before, I have family members who own property, and they're all single family homes, So I didn't think of multiple family homes, but I started to listen to a podcast by the name of Bigger Pockets.
Okay.
And that's a plug for Bigger Pockets, but really, really good podcast. It gets you really, what's the word? It gets you really excited. So I do really encourage you guys, if you have that bug, to listen to a couple of Bigger Pocket videos. But they came up with a concept of house hacking. What is house hacking? It's when you buy a multiple family or a multiple dwelling, whether it's a duplex, a triplex, quadruplex, meaning a 2-unit, 3-unit, or 4-unit, and you live in one side and then you rent the other side or sides out. Okay. Well, for example, if you buy a home that's $150,000, but it's a duplex, you might have $1,000 mortgage on it. Well, if you can rent the other side of your duplex out for about $1,300, sounds like you made $300 and you don't have mortgage and you don't have any household. And we know that rent and mortgage is usually the highest bill that we have over the month, right? So if that bill disappears, it gives you the ability to kind of snowball and save money and invest in more. But it gives you a way to, like I said, house hacking. Because you're going to occupy one of those units, you have the ability to purchase a home with an FHA loan, which is just 3.5% down. So, for $100,000 house, for the example, for $3,500 down, you could potentially have a place to stay, have a tenant, and then your mortgage. So, once I got, like I said, the concept, it was like, that's pretty exciting. So that's the route that we went.
Hey, Jackie. Okay, so I love bigger pockets. I didn't know anything about real estate investing until you called me all fired up about it. So I want to just, I think I always want to mention resources for people to get information about real estate investing, because I had when I say no interest in it. Rochelle called me all hype, like, we getting a good cash flow in this deal, like in our house, we landlords, and I was just like, whoa, that's just too much. That's good for y'all, y'all a team. I'm single and I'm living my life downtown Detroit in my high rise.
That's right.
I'm not trying to have no tenants calling me about no plumbing, no leaking, no nothing. So I was just like telling you no.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like that you are one of my friends that always challenges my no, and was just like, well, why can't you do it? And after you kept asking me why, I didn't really I didn't have too many more excuses or whatever. But I want to say, for me, when you called me about real estate investing, you told me to listen to Bigger Pockets podcast. So it's a really good resource, and we're gonna get into analyzing some rule of thumbs on how we analyze deals in a second. But I also, what I like about Bigger Pockets is they bring on other real estate investors, so you can hear other people's perspective on rules of thumb. Or if you live in California and Silicon Valley, it's very expensive, and you can't think, you're like, I can't make cash flow or any type of profit off of it. They talk about how you can be a landlord out of state. So they give you a lot of different perspectives. And so from there, I started listening to a lot of podcasts. That's what got me comfortable with it. Listening to like Paula Penn, Afford Anything, some other real estate podcasts that really helped me get a different perspective. So, all right, now that I just talked about the resources and stuff, let's talk about your deal. Like, I don't know if you want to give some examples of, well, I know you just gave one like 150,000 or whatever, but give background into the property that you have. Maybe not numbers, but like paint a picture for us. What does it look like?
Well, I have purchased a triplex. And again, as I said, FHA. So I did live in one unit for a year to meet the FHA requirements, right? But that triplex, is in what you would call a B- or C+ neighborhood, working class neighborhood. Access to transportation, whether it's the bus system, grocery stores and things like that are in the area. So it's a really good community, good area. It even has good schools. And I talked to you guys, a couple of days ago about tax rates and schools. So this particular property does have pretty high taxes due to the fact that it's in a good school district. But that school district drives rents. So, so for example, on this triplex, and my triplex isn't, uniform property where all units are the same. Every unit is different. And it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and then I have a 3-bed with 3 full baths, and that's a 2-story unit. And so it's a large property, and so I can get a lot, 1,000 plus, 1,500 plus for rents. But however, when you purchase a property at, for example, $300,000, your mortgage is going to be $2,000 or less. Now, mind you, you have 3 properties that's going for well over $1,000. If you think of that school district or the 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, that's a family home. Someone's willing to pay well in excess of $1,000. So just imagine the cash flow. So if I'm bringing in, just let's call it $3,000 a month with a $2,000 mortgage, I walk away with $1,000. Yes, there are some extra expenses that we have to consider. Things such as maintenance and vacancy rate, things like that. So you can't, you're occupied now, but you have to plan for the future. And Tasha has, her examples where she ran into issues, but when you plan for the future, when you are vacant, if you've been saving a little bit of money throughout the years, when you're vacant, you can still, pay that $2,000 mortgage when there's no tenants. So there's ways to protect yourself, things like that. But like I said, that $1,000 and you take off a little for lawn service, $50, or maybe you pay the light bill for, 3 units, say $200. You're still at the end of the month, walking away with over $500, $600, $700 in cash flow. And it's passive, depending on if you choose a property management or not. But again, it's extra money. And in 30 years, when that home is paid off and you didn't pay a dime for it, your tenants did.
Right.
It's retirement fund. It's going to give you $3,000, and in 30 years, $3,000 market rents. We're talking more like $6,000, $7,000, right? So now it's providing you a $7,000 a month for absolutely nothing, and you don't have to pay anybody. Maybe that deal, but that's the gist of my deal. It's a really, really good deal.
Y'all looked up for real with that one. Y'all really
this
did.
property is amazing. This community is amazing. So yeah.
Okay, so we got a comment. Thank you, Tanya. I know I hear that a lot when I tell people that I live for free. They're like, where were you? Why weren't you talking about this years ago? I just got comfortable kind of like talking about real estate and sharing my story more. So I want to kind of talk about like analyzing the deal. So you said you looked at school districts was one of the things. Is this property near mass transportation? That's some of the things you guys were looking at. So what would be attractive to tenants? So I mean potential renters. So I want, just for myself personally, I never grew up in a house. I always lived in an apartment growing up. So when you were talking to me about home ownership, it was on my radar, but it was just not at the time you were calling me about it. And so how I got comfortable with it was true millennial. I researched something for like 3 weeks, listening to podcasts, asking you a million questions, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna buy I'm gonna buy a rental property. But when I was starting off, like I just did not like the idea of a multifamily. Mm-hmm. I was more comfortable with a single family because I just did not want to move from a high rise. I know these ain't real problems, but I was just like, I didn't want to move from the center of everything. But when I was running the numbers, I was thinking about buying like a $60,000 or $70,000 house, right? And with my rent, it was about almost $1,200 at the time. Now those rents are $1,600 for my same unit. So I was like, $1,200, that's nothing. I had already paid off all my debt, but I was just like, okay, how comfortable am I with having a mortgage payment if no one lives there? Because I knew I wanted to do more with my money. I wanted to put more money into financial garden. I wanted to start investing in my Roth IRA because I had only was at that time investing in my 401k because I was so steadfast on paying off all my debt. So when I became debt free, I was like, do I really want to go into debt for a real estate property I know nothing about? So after looking one day at a couple, I'm like, no, let me look at multifamilies. So for me, when I decided on what area, I was like, do I want to have the multifamily in Detroit or around Detroit? And when I was looking at numbers and what I can get for my rent, to me, it just made more sense to look at a city slightly outside of Detroit for a multifamily because I can get more rent for the unit. So my deal, I got when I was talking to Rochelle, when I switched over and decided to do multifamily investing, I had to call my lender, tell them something different because when you want to do, if you want to buy a real estate property, single family, and you're not living in it, you have to put down 20%, sometimes 25% if you want to go the traditional way. I don't know if you had any comments on that. Yeah, so I was just like, I don't want to pay all that money out of my pocket. What if I have like leaks or whatever? I'm always thinking of worst case scenario, like because I'm always want to be prepared. And so I end up looking at multifamilies and calling you. We're using those resources like we talked about on Bigger Pockets. I started using, they have a real estate analysis worksheet or whatever that has a ton of information in it. Mm-hmm. And I was overwhelmed. Even with me being a CPA, I was looking at all these calculations and stuff. And I'm like, this is so much. Like, what if one thing is wrong, like, for example, like a cap rate? What if that's wrong, is this really a good deal? So for my house, before I purchased it, it was a couple of those calculations that was showing that the house that I bought wasn't going to be a good deal. And so I was calling Rochelle like, I don't know if I even should get this. I'm putting in these numbers. So for example, the purchase price.
Okay, so we're just waiting for Tasha to reconnect. She's almost there. Does anyone have any questions on Facebook? Okay, we're still waiting on a reconnect. All right.
Man, that's what I did. Like, I swear, okay, I know, like, I love the verses that was going on. Teddy Riley, Babyface, and Nelly, and Ludacris, all them lives on Instagram. And I was like cracking mad jokes about them, like having their Wi-Fi together. But I'm not a multi-millionaire yet. But I was like, why y'all can't have y'all stuff together? It ain't that hard. And look at me over here freezing. But no, I want to talk numbers real quick. So, I purchased my multifamily like right outside Detroit, and when I was looking at those numbers, the purchase price was $120,000. I knew before I did renovations, the first unit could rent for about $900. The upstairs could rent for about $800. So that's $1,700 a month in rent, and it was a potential basement unit that just needed some egress windows or egress door. So when I'm running this in this calculator sheet with bigger pockets, it was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but there were certain calculations that was showing me that it was a bad deal. And I'm like, with logic, like, this seemed like a good deal. So I'm calling Rochelle, and she like, just go with what makes sense when you look at certain calculations. So luckily, I was able to bounce this off of you because I know you had went through the process, which is why I'm like sharing this here. So when you running numbers with different calculations or calculators, sometimes need to use logic in numbers. So at the house, I ended up getting the house for $110,000 at the end of the day. And I put in $17,000, and $7,000 was like $7,500 was my closing cost. So if you think about that total price, let's say $25,000 to make the numbers easy. And my rent, I was just mentioning that my rent was almost $1,200 a month. Now it's at $1,600 a month. So if I would have stayed there with the the up rents or whatever, we're at like over $30,000 for just renting out a property. So to me, it's just like, instead of me for 2 years paying 2.5 years paying 30-some thousand in rent, I put that money into a house, and now I don't have a mortgage or rent. Even during that process, I didn't. So that was some of the things I used to look at it. So the $17,000 that I put into the house, one of it was making a third bedroom in a unit, putting in washer dryer hookups in each unit, like just trying to maximize the potential in the house. Right. So it can make it easier. So I had all these different ideas from listening to the Bigger Pockets. So one of the things I want to say, what do you look for in a multifamily if someone's interested in buying a multifamily, Rochelle? What are some of the things outside of looking at the neighborhood, the school district? What are some things in the house they should think about when buying a multifamily?
Well, first and foremost, if it is already occupied, you should think about things such as an estoppel agreement. And that's something that I was unfamiliar with until Bigger Pockets. And it's so crazy. You know, you read these books, you run into a situation, you go into a deal, you know, with your education, because we had done our research, we had done our podcasting, right? So we've done, you know, we read our books.
I know, right?
We read our books and we've done our millennial thing, right? And so now we come to the deal to the owner. Hey, mind you, I'm the agent, so I get to see all parts of the deal. Say, hey, Mr. Seller, we would like to see here's an estoppel agreement. We would like to see the rents for the people that live here. We want to see their lease agreements that you say you have in place, because online they're going to advertise, hey, unit 1 is rented for $1,000, unit 2 is rented for $1,500, and they'll tell you all this information in the listing.
They do.
They tell you all this information. So when you get to the nitty gritty, it's like, okay, so let's validate the information. The unit 1, guys, he said it was rented for $1,000. Well, it was rented for $895 on a 24-month lease. Had I not asked for that estoppel agreement once I took that property over, that would have been my tenant for 24 months at $895. The unit that I'm speaking of currently rents at $1,275. So the unit was grossly under market.
Wow.
Yeah, it was grossly under market because I had that information before I signed that document. Though, the document saying that I'm the owner, I was able to push back on the seller. And whatever it is that the seller needs to do to make this deal work, within legal limits, right, they need to do. He was able to renegotiate his lease agreement with that tenant, with their consent, for a lesser time. Yes, we honored their $895 for additional year, but not for a long time. We can't rent a $1,300 property out for $900.
No.
And that it just doesn't make sense, business sense, and then that just is what it is. So those are some of the things you look for. Other things to look for is if the utilities are connected or not. So in my triplex, 2 of the units, the gas, the water, and the electricity was all connected. Well, the summer rolled around and the unit that I lived in was connected to the young lady upstairs. I knew my usage and I knew how I used, electricity and air. And even in Georgia, you have to use air all the time and it costs more in the summer. So, So here I am, I get an $800 bill. Okay. So those are things you need to look out for. Because $800 in 1 month. This is the first month of summer. So now I'm scratching my head like this is going to be a long summer. Well, before the summer was over, I was able to get my electrician out there. We split the electricity on the property. So again, these are things you have to look for because you cannot control a tenant's usage. You cannot control how much water they use, how much gas they use, how much electricity they use. So you have to be mindful and careful as to if the utilities are on the landlord or not. And the reason I say, if they're on you or not is if they're all connected, it's impossible for you to therefore, charge each tenant their separate portion. So as a landlord, you have to find a way to bake in the cost of those utilities. And sometimes baking in the cost, brings you a profit. But again, you have to be careful. And those are things you need to look for. If the utilities are connected, you need to see utility bills. You want to see how the usage looks over time. And just things, you have to do everything to protect yourself. You can't trust anything that, they tell you. You have to validate and verify everything.
So what is that agreement called again?
The estoppel agreement. And again, that's nothing more than, you can Google it. It's nothing more than a form where the tenant actually signs that shows how much rent they pay and what their lease term is, and they sign off on that, agreeing. And then, so of course, when I got the estoppel back, it said $895, and that's when it said, this isn't what you said on this document. And then that's when we were able to go from there.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that because I know that was one of the things that you told me. So when I purchased my multifamily home, it wasn't operating as such. It was a single family. It was a married couple and a young child living in one unit, and they didn't market the other unit in the house. They were just using the whole house or whatever. So I didn't have to worry about that. They had projected rents of each unit, but I picked a city that I'm very familiar with to rent out in, and I knew what they were going for. Plus, you can look on apartments.com or whatever and see if there's multifamilies in the area to kind of give you a idea of what it should go for. But I did know the city very well, knowing that if I added that third bedroom, that I should definitely be able to get no less than $950 a month for one of the units in the home. And so my mortgage and water and taxes and everything was less than what I was paying in rent. So $900 for that, and I'm charging $950 or $1,000 a month for rent. I'm already making money off of that, and I'm living for free. I'm not even coming out of pocket for that. And so my utilities, because you told me about that, make sure the utilities are separate. I wasn't worried about paying the tenant's lights or gas or including that. Now water is included, but that wasn't, and it wasn't, and it hasn't been a problem as far as water usage between both units. But I know water and electricity and gas are two different monsters for real. Because I look, even living alone, I looking at some of my stuff and me and my usage and can be shocked. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something to think about. If you have any comments, make sure you're dropping them below, so we can answer them for you.
Let me
And I
say
know
this.
you see the ticker. Don't forget. Go ahead.
Let me say, oh,
Go ahead.
talk about the ticker.
I want to. I want y'all to just know. Share this video if you're watching this and you are getting some good information. Make sure you're sharing this on Facebook so we can spread this information because a lot of people may not be aware of it. Before Rochelle called me, I had no idea or even thought about multifamily investing. So make sure you're sharing this video and you're subscribed to Financial Gardens YouTube channel. I'm not going to remove the ticker. So let's talk about building a team. Because when you buy a house, there's always going to be some repairs.
I want to step back 1 second. I just want to step back 1 second. The things you're looking out for, right? The water, the gas not being connected, those things, you don't want to let them scare you. Like I said, I did get that $800 bill. And that was the initiating factor for me to go and separate my electricity. But I could have walked in on day one and separated the electricity. Now, here's another fact or tip I want to put out there. I got quotes for separating electricity. I got one for $8,000, one for $4,500, and one for $2,500. When I tell you, work is done so pristinely by a great electrician that I highly recommend, going forward. And again, I am in real estate and investing. He was a $2,500 quote. And again, you, like I said, don't allow that to scare you. Because had I went in, on day one and put that $2,500, I wouldn't have had that extra big, that $800 bill 2 or 3 times. That's the $2,500 right there. But going forward, guess what? I can continue to market this property at a nice, reasonable rate, and they pay their own utilities. And I'm not afraid or worried about that risk anymore. Just don't let those things scare you because, like Sasha said, a small investment could, can yield a good return.
Right. No, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was I remember you going through the separating the electricity and stuff, and I was like, no, I just want a home that's already ready. So it's just you want to know. You already had me informed, so I knew what I didn't want to deal with. So all right, you mentioned having an electrician and getting quotes and stuff. How did you build a team, or did you or your husband already know how to do home repairs?
So to be completely honest with you guys, I wish I was home. I wish I had my team back home, my uncle, my cousins, my brothers. They all do, great work and are licensed in their fields or whatnot. But being in real estate, like I said, really, really opened up the door and it gave me the keys, right? So I was out helping a young lady rent a home, actually. And I met the guy that was there. He was the maintenance guy for another investor. He was fixing up the last little few things before she moved in. I said, hey, can I get your information? That was 4 years ago when I first got in real estate. Again, I was helping, a rental client out, met this guy, and to this day, he's family. He just got done remodeling one of my units that I got going, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, going for $1,375. He just completely remodeled that one. So meeting that guy was like the beginning of everything. So I have to say I was fortunate in the way that, my team was formulated, but a team is very, very, very important, guys. And so because my contractor, he's a general contractor, but he is a busy. So things that I do to build a team beyond that is I use things like Thumbtack and, Angie's List and all those type of places, right? If I get somebody good, to clean my gutters or to clean this, I build a Rolodex of these people that I've had success with because I am in the industry. Again, I have contacts and I build, my Rolodex that way. So again, I suggest reaching out to real estate agents to get referrals for inspectors. And inspectors usually have a list of contractors and people who can help you. But building a good team is the most important thing.
Yeah. Tanya had a question. Once you separate the utilities, how long before you notify the tenant? Was that yeah? How long did you wait? And was it anything to do with their lease? Was there any problems with that?
Um, so I don't remember this specifically. However, I would tell you just like how I would handle it, going forward at any point, right? I really honestly want to say that the lease was coming up right soon. The utilities had not already been switched, but I knew that I was going to switch them. So the language and the stipulations, remember guys, leases or any contracts, they can all be, you can write in stipulations, you can cross out. A contract is nothing but language that two people agree on. So in this contract, in this lease agreement, I wrote in the stipulations that, the tenant would be responsible for utilities if and when XYZ, right? So I've already, kind of set the stage. I didn't go and change the utilities today and say, oh, and next month it's your bill. But immediately after I got that $800 bill, I will say that that's when the plan went into place. So one, the tenant was notified, upon new lease, or even, again, it's an agreement. Even had I told her your lease is up in December, but I want to amend the lease. Again, if the tenant agrees to this amendment, they agree. So whatever the case was, we did have it contractually agreed upon that she would be paying her electricity.
Thank you for that question. That was a good one. So building a team, I think for me, the contractor that I had was good but slow. So he started off really good and was dragging his feet and his team, and it was driving me crazy. So I will just say my tip, like my biggest thing with contractors is just timelines. Like it's good quality work with timelines, and time is money. If you're trying to get a unit ready to rent it out, that can be very frustrating. I also want to say too, with preparing the unit or whatever, just different expectations where it's at in a moment. But besides, you build your team, you got a good general contractor. You got a good backup. So whatever for this person if they're not available. Now you're a landlord. You own this property. You mentioned that you inherited tenants. I luckily did not inherit tenants, and I could pick my own tenant. But what has your landlord experience been like?
My experience has been awesome. Not to say I haven't had any issues. Not to say I haven't replaced 2 water heaters, 2 HVACs, renovation to a lower unit. I've done and put a lot of money into this property, but the landlord experience has been amazing. And the reason is because I am so thorough in my process. On Monday, we had a lender on, and we talked about the underwriter, and Tasha talked about how she didn't like working with the underwriter, and Tasha got all of her I's is dotted and her T's are crossed, and she didn't want to deal with the underwriters because they asked so many questions, and it's like, really? Do you think I'm lying? Like, it's just so much going on, and you have to keep providing all this stuff. I'm like the underwriter. So when you apply for my property, I am the underwriter. Why? The underwriter is protecting that lender's money. I am protecting my property. I do not want to get someone in my property that I have to evict or have problems with, or that's going to cost me more money. I don't want anyone in my property the agreement is to, you have somewhere to stay, you pay me rent. That's what I want to take place. If something go wrong with the property in between, yes, I'm here to help. But yeah, so I'm very, very thorough on my search. 3 times the income is required. I do a verification of the employment, the employer, as well as the income. I do a background check. I have a service that for just $35, you can do a credit check. It gives you a recommendation about this person. You can do a background check if they have a criminal record. So all this information that I'm privy to, right? So now I have someone who's applying for rent, all the boxes are ticked off, but you have a criminal situation. I want to know about it because I'm the underwriter. The underwriter is going to ask you about, I want to know about your character. I want to know about the person that's going to be occupying my property, not just by themselves, but I have 2 other units that are attached, and I have to, that I have to take that into consideration. I have to keep my other renters happy.
Right. I was gonna say you got to keep them in mind.
Exactly. So
yeah, you got to keep them in mind too. You want no drama with tenants.
No, exactly.
Amongst each other.
Exactly. So, like I said, I
no,
love.
You are an underwriter.
Who?
Go ahead.
No,
we keep talking over each other. I said, go ahead.
I was just saying.
No, I just like that you said what you were. Go ahead, Dexter. Go ahead.
HP. So, like I said, I totally love being a landlord because I'm in control. Yes, I hate, or I don't want to get a phone call in the middle of the night, but a word of advice there. Take care of your properties. Do the maintenance. Don't, if everything's old, fix it. Get it to good standard so that you're not getting those calls about something breaking. If a light break, don't fix it the wrong way, fix it the right way, and that's just going to protect your property and the longevity of things and less phone calls for you. Again, if you do a good job of selecting good people, good tenants, sometimes you even select tenants who are so hands-on that they'll do the maintenance themselves. So, just do a good job of selecting who you put in your property. And I enjoy the process. I mean, it can be time consuming, but it's usually just a small portion of time. And I'm totally against property managers, and Tasha probably will let you know. She's very busy and she wants someone to help her. And I understand that, but I like the control. I love the control that I have over my process. If someone wants to see my house, it's that I make myself available to show my home. Property manager might ignore a phone call for a week or 2. Time is money.
And we're gonna get right into that. I'm like, that was a nice segue. So I fired my first property manager because of that reason. After I got my house and went through everything with the contractor taking 100 years, after he was just moving like speed lightning. After that, getting a city certification for the rental, go on market, find a property manager. They listed on all these sites, and I'm not getting any showings. And I'm like, my unit is nice. Like, I just put new floors down, new appliances. I should be getting hits, not just people inquiring, but people that actually come out to the property. Mm-hmm. Long story short, I ended up having myself and other friends call in to schedule showings, and they were saying there was no availability for another week. Meanwhile, I had no showing scheduled. Mm-hmm. And I would think that if you're a property manager who doesn't get paid until you get it rented out, that you would have it in your best interest to rent this unit out as fast as possible. But that was not my experience. But I ended up getting out of that whole agreement. Which obviously they sucked anyway, because the agreement had no cancellation fees for me, and they were trying to go back and forth with me about that I would have to pay something. I'm like, show me an agreement. I also
show me in the contract.
Right. And then another thing too was always do everything in writing. Like, when you're dealing back and forth with people with real estate, do stuff in email. If you have a phone call, follow up an email per our conversation, X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Let me know if you disagree. So you had that trail. And I had that with their property manager. So when they were saying something, I'm like, here it is, Linda. You didn't say that. I confirmed that there would be no fees. So they had to stop marketing my property. But the problem I had was they had listed it on apartments.com. They had listed it everywhere. So then they became confusion between, and when people came to see the house, how could they contact somebody to see the unit? So I had to contact apartments.com and different. I keep saying that's the main thing I can think of. But I had to contact those websites to let them know that they were not the property managers, and I was the owner, and they contacted me for showing. So that's why I hired my first property manager, because it wasn't showing. Sean says the property more difficult to manage if you're not occupying one of the units. That's a great question for you.
That's a great question.
Rochelle.
I no longer live. Hey, LaShawn. I no longer live in my Montaie family, and it's easier. It's easier to manage not being there, right? Because they have more access to you when you're right there, when they see your car is there. Not to say that I've had that issue, but it's been, I live about 30 to 45 minutes away from my property. What I do is I do have a P.O. box near the property, so I drive the neighborhood occasionally and things of that nature. Or when I have properties on the market, which I have 3 right now, marketing for rent, I'm there usually every day. So no, it's not hard to be a landlord from afar. Especially when I don't do the repairs. I just pick up the call and and someone goes out to do repairs. So no, it's not hard.
And you know what? I mean, this is why I'm glad you were on. And like I said, I always say I talk to you about everything real estate because now I'm going to go back to managing my property after the tenant that I have moves out in a few weeks. But I'm going to go back to managing my property. I did end up managing the first tenant that I had, great tenant, but they went on to purchase a home. So I did not hire a property manager for where I am. I do have another property. So it's been some property managers. I've worked with 2 property managers at this point. And with talking with Rochelle and different stuff, I'm kind of trying to mentally prepare myself to manage my own property.
How much do you pay for property management?
So the first month rent is required when they find a tenant, and then I pay them 10% of the rent every month.
So if it's $1,000,
$100, right?
Every month, and then it's $1,000, right? Okay, so right, that extra $1,000 a month. What are they doing exactly, right?
Exactly. That's what. And well, for me, what they're doing they pick the tenant. They do all the showings or whatever. That's how they're charging them $1,000. And whenever there's any issues with the tenant, they deal with it. But then if it's a repair that's over $100 or whatever, that the tenant is supposed to repair anything under that, then I'm called to see like how many bids do I want to do or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't have that I can't even talk. I don't have that happen too much. But they're managing the communications. They're collecting the rent. They're putting the ACH debit into my account every month with my rent. I don't have any interactions with the tenants. So that's one of the benefits. Like Rochelle said, I'm really busy, so I'm like I don't have time. I don't want to be bothered, but I'm considering it now.
And I'll say this: I don't have my tenants pay electronically. I don't hear from them unless something, major happens. Like I said, a hot water tank, most of my tenants are 2-year tenants. And within that 2 years, I hear from them 4 times. Besides the ones that I'm helping purchase a home. Because I also market my services to my tenants to be first-time home buyers as well. Because of course I'm, empowering us to purchase.
You securing the bag. First of all, you somebody landlord like, hey, by the way, let me be your real estate agent too, so I can get commission on top of this rent. That is securing the bag all the way around. So round of applause for that.
If you want to move, you got to give me 60 days or pay an extra month rent to break your lease. I just tell my tenants, if you want to break your lease, I'll be your agent.
To me, that's a win. All the way around.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, because we talked about, I want to jump back. We got a few more minutes, but I want to jump back to analyzing the deal. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't mention one of the like some rules of thumb so people are watching. Right. So for me, I use 1% rule now. So I have another property after buying my multifamily property. So one of the things that I think of is the 1% rule before I bust out the calculator, the bigger pocket type of spreadsheet or whatever. I go, what's 1% rule? What's the purchase price and what's it going to cost me to get this property available for rent? So do we need paint, carpet, all that stuff? Let's say it's $5,000. The property is $50,000. That's $55,000 total. that, put on some closing costs or whatever. Let's just make it 60,000 just to keep it simple. The 1% is that I should be able to at least rent that unit out or the house out for $600 because it's the 1% rule of the 60,000. So that's what I kind of think of when I'm looking at property. If it's something that's $100,000 as a single family, I'm like, man, it's got to be in a really good neighborhood because for me to only have one family in there and $1,000 of rent, if I can't get at least that, that's just the cost of it. We're not even talking about coming in. You always got to do something with a house, paint or something, unless you're buying a new build or whatever. People do get lucky, but that's one of the rule of thumbs that I think of. What are some terms or some calculations that you and Dustin use?
Again, it's so funny because like I am a whole accountant at work, studying for my CPA because I want to be like Tasha. So yes, I came back to the CPA studies, guys. Now that I'm a broker in real estate. So no, but the gross rent the gross rent multiplier rule is one that I use or that we use. And like I said, I'm the numbers girl, but he really is knee deep in all the calculations and everything when it comes time to turn it on. And that's just a testament, guys, to you don't have to be in finance. You don't have to be in real estate. You don't have to be an expert or even, have a degree to invest in real estate and to learn and to become good at what you do, just that specific thing. If you know the gross rent multiplier rule and you know how to churn these deals, then that's your thing. That's what's important. So again, don't expect or think that you have to be highly educated to make this stuff happen. You simply Google gross rent multiplier and it'll tell you how it's done. So again, that's one of the things we do because we use the multiple families. So, I want to be able to, look at it overall, like, okay, if the gross rent multiplier on one unit is 10, and the way that that's done is like you use the sales price. So at a sales price of $100,000, and you're getting $1,000 in rent over 12 months. So the gross rents is $12,000 and the sales price of the home, say $100,000, you put $100,000 sales price over your total rent income, gross rent multiplier, the $12,000, and you get a ratio or a percentage, 8.3%. That 8.3%, you take that to the next property and you're able to see, is this a fair deal? Like if, you'll do the same. And you'll always have the rents based on, like you said, they'll market the rents to you and let you know, or you'll see things in the area. Will this home also rent for $1,200 like the things around it, or $600 like the things around it? So that's just something, a rule of thumb, to be able to compare multiple family properties. And again, it's called the gross rent multiplier. You can Google it and kind of get a little understanding of it. And we definitely can go in depth when we analyze the deal on one of these calls.
No, I have froze up for again. All right, so I'm glad you shared those calculations again. I know we're talking a lot of numbers. We love talking about numbers, but what I want to say is yesterday he talked about purchasing homes through auction. So if you didn't see that, go check it out. But I didn't start in real estate investing through that way. I'm fortunate enough to be a high W-2 earner with having a business. So it was easy for me to go get a mortgage. I had high credit, it was easy for me to go in and get a mortgage and get approved. So why not go that route and buy a house the traditional way? Only put for the house or whatever. So that's why I wanted to talk about multifamily, because everyone doesn't want to roll up their sleeves and buy something from auction and have to do all that maintenance here. I could have bought this house and rented it out immediately, but my rents would have been lower. So I want to make the property make more and increase the value in it. I also want to share before we get to one of my last questions for you is some scare factors myself. You shared the hot water tank and the HVAC system and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my experience was in my house that I purchased. I had a severe issue that did not get detected in my home inspection. I kind of shared that a little bit with you all on Tuesday when Rochelle was on. But even with that, structuring still makes sense. it still kept all those repairs. Now it was horrible. I like, oh man, I just was like, oh, it won't stop me. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't believe this happened to me. I was like 2 days. I was like, all right, let me get into execute mode. I gotta fix it. But even with that, I'm still like, okay, let me think about getting the next property. Let me think about the next deal. Just because of the tax benefits for me, the write-offs of what it being passive income for me, those repairs and different stuff that I make, I'm getting it back in a to make it in layman's terms, I'm getting that money back when I do my taxes. Not all of it, but I'm getting a lot of that flowing through back to me. So you have major repairs like that, it's not the end of the world. So I just want to share some not so fun parts of this process, but at the end of the day, we're both saying it's worth it. So hopefully it's if you buy from auction or buying a multi-family, think about what you can invest in for yourself. I don't have any kids, and I'm not married. That doesn't mean I'm still not trying to create a legacy. So even if you're single, think what you want to do, legacy and cash flow for you, what you want to do. And if you do have a his wife, then they hire them. So what last for you? And you got I'm freezing. Can you see me, Rochelle?
I can see you.
Okay, it was like freezing. So evictions. Have you ever had to evict a tenant? This is like my worst fear.
It was my worst fear too until it happened, right? So yeah, I was on a streak. I was 3 years in, no evictions, all great tenants. Very seldom got paid late. I do have late fees in my contract for about $150 if you're late. So that scares people from being late. But I have very good tenants. I just had a guy who had an unfortunate situation, toward the end of his second year of his lease. And just life calls for him not to be able to pay. But again, I have a mortgage. Again, when I told you guys you have to save for vacancy, right? I have a mortgage. He's in the unit. I can't rent it to someone else, but he's not paying. So I have to be able to cover that mortgage myself. And that's those savings that I do throughout the months over those 2 years that he stayed there. I could pay that mortgage and comfortably pay it. However, basically, the minute you're aware that someone is going to be late on day five is my late day. Basically, once you advise me that you're going to be late, once I know you're going to be late, I give you a notice letting you know that, hey, ultimately, listen, the process isn't that hard. You just have to be on it from day one, because the courts do give the tenant a lot of time. They give them 7 days to respond, and then they give them another 10 days, and then you can come file a second paper. So ultimately, the eviction process or the dispossessory process will cost you maybe $300 to $400, and it may take you 21 days to 45 days for the marshals to actually get that tenant out of your property. So yes, it can, like I said, the way to protect yourself is just to save money for vacancies. But yes, it's an easy process. You go down and you file some paperwork, and you just wait. You have to wait though. And the tenant can prolong the process by just responding. So be quick to act so that, that time doesn't close in on you.
Add up.
Yeah, add up.
So you like day 5, you like, okay, here's your notice. I'm not going to drag my feet and wait to day 7 because I'm already losing more days by that, because they have a set amount of days they can respond. So just basically the theme I'm hearing with you is to have a process. You got a process for how you select your tenants. You are the underwriter. Mistakes do happen, or stuff happens with tenants. That could have been a good tenant. He could have just lost his job or whatever. So, or he or she. But I'm saying you had a process for contractors. You mentioned looking at Angie lists or whatever. You had a process for figuring out how to look at deals. You looked at Bigger Pockets and other podcasts. You have a process for making sure you're getting your money. Like, day 5. You have a process for your contracts that you have with your leases. Like you mentioned the utility stuff. Like you made sure that you really did your homework to make sure you was covering your own self in this whole process. So I just think that's amazing, which is why I call you with all my real estate questions. tenant questions, property manager questions. I'm gonna get like you one day and be a landlord over all my properties. I'm just not there yet. If you guys have any questions or comments, let us know because we're about to wrap up. I don't see anything else. Rochelle, you have any closing thoughts? Anything you wish you would have knew before you got your first property or something to leave us with?
My closing thought, honestly, guys, if you're listening, I encourage you, if you can, just call a lender. Just call a lender. If you can get pre-approved to purchase a multiple family home, it's something really, really worthwhile. It'll change your life. Even if you don't want to be an investor long term, you don't want to, be a landlord of all of Detroit, just have that one property, something, like you said, to build a legacy on and to build on. I know someone who bought a duplex years ago and for about $50,000 or $60,000 in Washington. She just sold it to some investors for $500,000. Just something she sat on for years and years and years because it made sense. It's real estate. So I really, really encourage you guys to invest, purchase real estate, single family home, multi-family home, just purchase. Please call me if you have any questions.
All right. So thank you for the compliments. Thank you, Sherika. I hope I'm saying your name right. You know her?
Sherika. Yeah.
Okay.
Best friend.
Yeah, Sherika. I remember seeing her on Monday or Tuesday, whatever day. I'm like all my days running together. It's been tough. Thank you, Alana, for the comment. Alana, Elena, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. FinCon friend. All right. So my last thing is vote, share this video. You watch it. If you only caught 10 minutes of it, share. We want to get this information out to people for investing. It's a lot of conversation going on about Black wealth and Black Lives Matter, but a lot of us don't own property. So share this video, tag somebody in this video so they can see it before I close out. And last but not least, go to financialgarden.com and vote for Financial Garden to win $100,000 from Essence and Pine Sol. As soon as you get to the website, it pops up. And that's all I got for y'all. Two Black girl magic right here. CPA broker signing off. Be well. Bye.